Moving along, moving along. Let's see, am I missing anything? All right, let's go to this one. The graph below represents a function. Again, this is, again, we didn't talk too much about this, but again, this went back to understanding back in chapter 2. Now, something very special is going on here. It says you're given a function. Now, again, a lot of you, based on the responses and what I saw from the OER, a lot of you are failing to, again, recognize that what a function is. Again, a function here, the key word function, first of all, is a relationship. All it does is that this connects input to an output. So make sure, again, that you're writing everything down that I write down on my piece of paper, please. So, function is a relation that maps or that I guess you can write connects every input to input to exactly one output. All right. So again, that is what a function is. That is what a function is. Right. And again, I'm going to move this up here. Write that down next to the word function. A function is just a fancy word for a relation that connects every input to exactly one output. That's a function. So again, here, we're not given an equation, but it's okay. This is just a relation, right? So this is giving me two lines, but something special is going on. Again, we're looking for the relation, right? So what happens? So look, when x is -4, my y was -7. That's all it's saying. It's a relation, right? So we're getting the graph of what this looks like, right? When x is -6, my y is probably -10. So again, this is what's going on here. It's creating a whole bunch of connections, right? We're not seeing the equation that gave me this graph, but I'm just given the input and the output. I'm given the input and the output. I'm going over here so you guys can see it a little bit better. Again, you're given the input, x's, and the y. That's what creates the line, right? It's all the points. So going back to the question here, it says, the value of f of 4 is, well, let's not forget what this actually is. When we talked about this in class, we said a function can actually be written in the form f of x. Now again, let's not forget f of x, pronounced f of x, means function, write this in the bottom, f of x is a function in terms of x, right? That's what this means. That's what this meant. So function, which is f of x, is nothing more, a pronounced f of x, is a function in terms of x. So our output is gotten, or we get the output by taking our input and getting the situation, right? So if you look at here, something very special is going on, right? We're given f of 4. If you guys remember, this x is our input, right? Function in terms of x, well, adding some more detail here, x is domain, which is the set of input. So what does that mean? Well, if they want us to find f of 4, right? F of x is a function where x is my input and we get the f of the function, right? That we get the output value, right? So what's going on here? Where they want us to find the value, the output, when x is 4. Right? That's what this is saying. What is the value of f of 4? So what does this mean? This means nothing more than, hey, x is equal to 4. Right? So let's go to my graph. When I go to my graph, Actually, here, let me write this again. My apologies. Give me 1 second. Here, this means find y when x equals 4. That's all they want you to do. So looking at my graph here, well, let's go look at the value of 4. Notice how here, this is the line where x equals 4. Again, I apologize. It looks a little bad. I'm sorry. But that is the graph when x equals 4, right? Now, what are we looking for? We're looking for the output. Well, what is the output? Well, the output is the point when x is 4. But if you look, it's actually right there. This is my point. What is that point? Well, that point is nothing more than 4, 0. Oh, let me do this again. My apologies. 4, 0. So again, I'm going to go way back here because, again, I know this might be a little bit a handful, or rather a lot of verbiage, but let's recall a function is just a relationship, right? It's an equation. We don't have the equation, but we're given the graph. We're given the graph that connects every x to every y. And we get this line, which again is nothing more than a set of infinitely many points. So we know that f of x is nothing more than just a function. F of x, pronounced as this, f of x, not multiplication. So what does this mean? This means that we have a function, y, in terms of x. So x is a domain, the set of inputs. So here we have the function graphed out for us, f of x, but they want us to find f of 4. What does this mean? They want us to find f, the function, the output, when x is 4. So find y when x is 4. Well, look, when x is 4, what is the value of y? What is my output? 0. So my answer is f of 4 is equal to 0. There it is. F of 4 is equal to 0. Now, again, yes, I mean, I don't want you to say that just look at the x-axis. No. What if the problem said, what is f of negative 4? So we're going to go to the negative 4, and what is the value of y when x is negative 4? If you look, this would be negative 7. Right? And again, we'll talk about this a little bit more as we progress. But again, this was part of chapter 2. Again, you just have to be a little, more open-minded when it came to the problem. All right? Let's go to the next problem here. Now, this one, do not worry about it. I am not going to talk about this because we're nowhere near exponential functions. So, all you have to do on your piece of paper is write the following. Will not discuss exponential problem. There it is. Again, I will not count this against you. The other ones, I think they're fair game, or at least partial fair game because you should have gotten some part of it. But this one, I will not count against you because, again, there's no way of you knowing this, and I don't want to talk about this right now because you guys aren't ready for this. We'll talk about this again when we get to chapter 9. So, again, I will not count against you. I apologize for this problem being in there. So, again, just will not discuss exponential problem. All right? Let's go to the next one here. If f of x equals 2x minus 3 plus 4, find f of negative 8. This falls on the same problem that we just talked about, right? Again, what is f of x? F of x okay. So f of x is equal to y, right? It's an outputs, right? It's another way of saying what are the outputs of a function, right? But if you remember when we talked about it in class, we said it's just a way of talking about functions, right? We can see what the output is when we know the value of x. That's what this boiled down to, right? So what is this problem asking? Well, it's telling us that we have a function given by this equation, right? Again, all this is saying is, hey, we have an equation, we have a function where you have this equation given to you, right? Now they want to find f of 8. Well, what does this mean? Well, again, if we're given a function f of x equals 2 parentheses x minus 3 close parentheses plus 4, we're given this function, right? So again, this function, the output is 2x minus 3 plus 4. What do they want you to do? Well, look at what the problem says. Hey, student, I want you to find f of negative 8. F of negative 8. So what changed from the function, this function, went on top to the bottom? Well, x became a negative 8. Again, some of you guys were plugging in the number here and not over here. That is showing that you were not really paying attention to what we talked about in chapter 2. We even said this in class. These x's are the same. The only key difference about this f of x is that we have the luxury of knowing x. So again, what changed from here to here? X became a negative 8. So what do we do here? Well, we replace the inside x of the equation. 2 parentheses negative 8 minus 3 plus 4. Of course, you can you can use your calculator here, or you can graph the equation. You can graph this equation and then see when x is negative 8. And we get that the answer, after using your calculator, f of negative 8 equals negative 8 minus 3 is a negative 11 times 2 is a negative 22 plus 4 is a negative 18. Again, remember, what does this mean? If you were thinking about this in terms of points, this is nothing more than saying, oh yes, when x is negative 8, my output is a negative 18. That's all this is saying, right? That's all this is saying. When x is negative 8, my y is negative 18. But again, notice how this allows us to see what is the x, what is the input. Versus if you change this to y equals, notice how we're still going to get the same answer and we're still going to get y equals negative 18. But notice how there's something really nice about this. We get to know the input that we used and we get our output simultaneously. See, so notice how these two give me the points. All right. So there's our answer for this problem. So f of negative 8 is a negative 18. All right, there it is. So again, we plugged in this negative 8 into the equation. As you can see, there it is. And we worked it out using our handy dandy calculator, and we got a negative 18. All right.